Day 25. 7:30 in the morning we were here. Ronald's in, bless him. Concrete is cured. Sean's not been here and actually set out as yet. I think we should have maybe done that last night, and then we potentially could have been taking some of the formwork off last night, and that's what the concrete guy said, but I did touch it a little bit and was still a bit soft last night, so today would have been the best time to do that. But as you can see, the concrete is now well and truly off. So the formwork now can start being removed, because the formwork's got to be reutilised in the swimming pool area. So what we need to do this morning is to remove all the formwork all the way around. I say formwork, we call it shuttering. And then we need to have the site manager map out this area so that we can actually then start putting the actual footings out and laying this as well. So the plan is to remove and set out and install here today. And the site manager said also he wants to try and lay out all of the columns that are going to land up being in here as well. Probably got to liaise with the engineer, because the engineering's drawings still haven't been finalised, and they're a crucial part of actually getting this done. So I'll speak to the site manager, engineer in a minute, and try and find out whether he can get that done, because he's done the majority of the work. It's just removing. Basically, he had walls going through here all the way through the middle, and I said I don't want walls. There's no point having a basement with walls in it, otherwise you're not going to have an open basement. So we're changing them with pillars. This piece here is basically the centre of the house, so that will, that's the centre of the house, and that goes all the way through this way past. So there's pillars here, there's pillars all the way through this side of the house as well to hold the concrete floor, which is going to be the main floor up in the air. And then you've got a usable basement, but initially they were planning on putting brick walls there, and technically there was no way of getting in and utilising the basement, which is just a complete madness. Anyway, so I've got to chase the engineer on that to find out when he can squeeze those amendments in. Sean is basically saying he won't lay out until that's done, which is completely right. You need to have a drawing to go by. And then the other thing they've got to do, these are support columns, this one here and this one here. So basically they've had to order bigger steel, so the thinner steel here, or rebar, what they call it. The steel rebar here is too small, so they then need to tie up, obviously, and make columns. So the columns, they obviously make a 6 to 8 square stroke rectangle size, and they strap it together, and that forms the main structure of a column basically. And I assume that blocks will go all the way around this, and it'll be poured with concrete through in the middle. So yeah, they're doing the same thing with these ends, but these ends will obviously be with larger steel. I don't know what size it is, I'll have a look later, but it's larger, because this is going to be one of the main columns that's going to go up in the air to support the main floor, but it'll also continue through the middle of the house to hold the roof up, as will that. And the plan is, if I come right back here, which you'll see the level of work we've still got to do, this column here and this column here are going to be what are going to support up in the air there and up in the air there, the upstairs room. So the house is going to finish along here, but the column that's going to go up here and the column that's going to go up here are going to have the containers above weighted across to the unit that's going to end up being built over here. So still we've got to take all this out and do the footings for that. There's a semi-house being built over there, and then the containers will go over the top of that house over to this side of the house. So that's the reason why they've got to be so big. They're going to be weight bearing basically. And what's obviously quite confusing, it looks like we're on the floor there, but we're not technically. We are this much under the ground. So technically when you take the same level that way, we are probably around about 4 foot over there under where we should be. So that's got to be raised, so the house will end up being 4 foot off the air. So the basement will carry on, and then the house will be built on top. Aim tomorrow is to start laying blocks. So all of this lot here, they lay the blocks over the rebar, they fill it with concrete through the middle, and they build the columns at the same time. So there will be a couple of columns certainly on that side, because that side's going to have no walls. That's literally going to be all windows all the way along there. So you obviously got those pillars, you've got one there, one there, one there. So block work hopefully is going to start tomorrow. And if we can try and get the plan to map out here today and remove the formwork, then we could be pouring more footings on Thursday and Friday. What you should really do is literally lay out all of the formwork, and the wood is really expensive here. So the engineer is also, the site engineer, sorry, has actually said, look, if you want to buy all of the wood, we can set it all out and do it in one lump. And I said, okay, well, how much is it? So it's been technically, it's about 15 to 20,000 just for the wood we got here. So we would need over double that. And obviously once it's poured and finalised, the wood is not needed. So technically you're spending 40, 50,000 on wood and then throwing it away. So I probably, and he probably incentivised it to be done in one lump. But what you would normally do is set out all the footings, set out all of the actual slab work, then you'd bring in a concrete pump and then concrete lorry after concrete lorry, and you'd pour the whole thing at the same time. We haven't done that, and that's obviously going to slow the job down, but it's also going to land up causing cold joints. So when this slab is laid here, these gaps here along the side, you land up having concrete butting up against each other, and they call it a cold joint because basically if water comes up, it can't get through the concrete, but it will find that gap in between the two concretes where one is set and one isn't. They don't form properly, which means they will move and they will crack, and water will find its way through. So we're trying to think of a solution at the moment that we can do to try and prevent that from happening, because the last thing I want is water coming up into the basement. So anyway, that's where we are so far. So I think today's really going to be, like I said, just pulling off formwork, setting on one side, trying to get the site manager out to obviously set out, who needs to work with the engineer in order to get that done properly, with a view to us setting up with deliveries today to do block work and those elements as of tomorrow. So starting to gather a bit of momentum, so fingers crossed we can get this done. Okay, so the unboxing is coming together. On that side. So the fin makes it look like this. Still plenty to take off. And then what they're trying to do obviously is de-nail everything that's been made so far, so they can obviously stack it and reuse it again. So setting out is meant to be happening this afternoon. It could if it was now really, because we can start laying this out. I'm still trying to liaise with the engineer to try and finalise the drawings for the columns, etc., which is proving reasonably difficult. But anyway, I'm sure we'll get there at some stage. So unfortunately it's a bit of a frustration end today, whatever it is. The guys managed to pull off all the boxes from the walls. The engineer never came back to me with regards to the drawings. The site manager never turned up to do the setting out. So technically it was a day wasted. So, but anyway, tomorrow morning hopefully you'll be back on site again with material. Meant to be people laying blocks tomorrow. Whether that's going to happen I don't know. There's no blocks arrived on site as yet, so like everything it will turn up at the last minute probably, so they'll probably start laying 10, 11, 12, whatever. But anyway, we'll have a few more meetings tomorrow about how we can try and push the project back on and get it back on track, because at the moment we're probably about 2 weeks behind, and there doesn't seem to be a change in the planning stage. So make a few phone calls tonight and try and change a few things, see if we can get the project back on track again.